A group of villagers were forced to abandon their homes after a bunch of nobles made the place unlivable. This has led to all the villagers hating all forms of nobility, especially Mani, who lost her husband because of the careless actions of the nobles. A year after that incident, the Lord is reviewing the report on it, and apparently those refugees were taken in by a noble named Rockford. But Rockford can't support all 1,000 refugees any longer, so he is asking them to help find a new home for them. However, with 1,000 people, there's only one piece of land big enough to accommodate them, and monsters currently overrun it. Developing that area will be practically impossible, so the Lord has no choice but to ask Takumi for help. Meanwhile, Takumi and the others are getting ready to go to dungeon exploring. Takumi has been interested in dungeons for a while, so he chose to enter a dungeon known as the Forest of the Beast King. It is the second most difficult in the kingdom, and despite being underground, it looks like a forest. The monsters here are a lot stronger than the monsters on the surface, but Maple, as the scout and Titan taking all the big hits for them, were able to defeat the floor bosses fairly easily and claim the treasure chests. It took a whole day before they could reach the last floor, and as they approached the final boss room, everyone was getting excited. Sophia is just glad they managed to make it this far without suffering any real damage, and Takumi says it's because they got lucky and didn't fall for any traps. But just as Takumi says this, he accidentally steps on a trap in the floor, sending a massive boulder right at them. Takumi yells for everyone to retreat, so they all start running until they make it to a room that is too small for the boulder to get in. Suddenly the door they came in through closes behind them, so now they have no choice but to follow this path. Eventually they arrive at a large room, and Takumi starts to get the feeling that they were lured here, and it turns out that he was right because the final boss soon appears, and it's an S-rank Earth Dragon. Takumi really wishes he had brought the giant Titan with him, but Takumi didn't, so as the dragon strikes at them, Takumi tells everyone to run. They won't have a chance to attack if they don't stop the dragon's tail from moving, so Takumi asks Titan and Maple to try and pin it down for a few seconds. Titan understands, so he grabs the dragon's tail to hold it in place while Maple uses her webs to stick it to the ground. With the dragon's tail trapped, Sophia runs up to it and starts stabbing. The dragon screams out in pain, so everyone uses the opportunity to hit it with all the magic they've got, but it's still not enough to bring it down. Sophia tells Takumi that the dragon's weak point is its midsection, so Takumi brings Camellia out and has her charged straight from the dragon's abdomen. This does considerable damage, so Takumi seizes the opportunity to go in for the final blow. Takumi runs up to the dragon intending to strike it down, but then realizes that he doesn't want to get too close to that fire breath, so Takumi realizes there is an easier way to deal with this. Takumi enchants his sword with magic before throwing it in the dragon's mouth. This does enough damage to finish the dragon off, so it disappears, leaving behind a treasure chest in its place. This means they've officially cleared the dungeon, and as a bonus, Takumi found this dragon scale and is sure he can make something great out of it. After Takumi and his party return to Bolton, Godwin immediately summons Takumi. Once Takumi arrives at the Godwin mansion, Godwin asks him if he is familiar with the uninhabited land south of this region. Takumi recalls hearing that the place is undeveloped and there are so many monsters there that even the neighboring nations don't want to bother dealing with it. The Kingdom of Triaria once tried to terraform that area, but they failed miserably and suffered great losses. With that said, Godwin wants Takumi to go there and build a village. Takumi is dumbfounded and asks why Godwin wants him of all people to do it, so Godwin tells Takumi that he heard of the board village and how Takumi built a huge wall for them in a few minutes. That's why Godwin believes Takumi can construct a village on his own. There is a river about 100 kilometers south of Bolton, so they tell Takumi that would be a good place to start construction. But Sophia doesn't like the way Godwin is trying to dump this responsibility on Takumi's shoulders, so she reminds him that Takumi's life is still under threat from Sidonia. Godwin is aware of this and tells her that he normally wouldn't make such a request, but the circumstances are dire. A year ago, development on a pioneer village was halted due to interference from corrupt nobles, and as a result 1,000 villagers were forced to abandon their homes. Bolton and Rockford have supported the refugees till now, but Godwin would like to find a new home for them as soon as possible. That's all Takumi may need to hear because he says he will do it. Sophia tries to convince him to reconsider since it would be hazardous, but Takumi has already decided because he can't ignore people who need help. When Takumi first got here, he didn't have a home either, but the people of the board village took him in and gave him a place to live. That's why Takumi wants to do the same for these refugees. Since Takumi agreed to build the village, he immediately sets out with his party and an escort of knights so Takumi can start construction. After building the roads, Takumi used his magic to erect a giant rock wall and dug out a huge moat in front of it to stop monsters from attacking the village. Then Takumi had Reva reinforce the wall to strengthen it, and Maria helped with some inner-city roads. After a few days of work, this place is finally starting to look like a real village, so Takumi asks Sophia to return to Bolton and tell Godwin he can send the pioneers here. Sophia does as she is told and rushes back to Bolton on Camellia to inform Godwin that they are ready to receive the refugees, but Godwin can't believe they managed to create a whole village in just 10 days. The village isn't exactly perfect, but Takumi said it should be good enough for the villagers to live their daily lives without issue. So Godwin orders the refugees to head to the new village. The refugees start heading there under the escort of the knights. Still, even though they are supposedly receiving a new home, they are rather worried because they are heading for the southern frontier. The place is known for being undeveloped monster territory. They heard that a man was dispatched to make the land habitable. Still, they assume it is just another rotten noble who sees them as nothing but disposable pawns, so the living conditions in the village must be terrible. However, as they pull up to the village, the knight captain is shocked by the sheer magnitude of the village walls. It's practically a fortress at this point. The convoy crosses the drawbridge and enters the village where they meet Takumi. The knight captain asks Takumi what this is, so Takumi explains that he surrounded the village with ramparts and dug a moat for security. This way, as long as the village isn't attacked by a dragon or something with wings, it should be safe. There is also a castle on that hill over there, but Takumi just made that happen in case any officials visit the village. There are homes for everyone who is moving in, as well as some barracks for the knights. Takumi even created a sewage system complete with his purification devices. The knight thanks Takumi for all his hard work. But that aside, he asks how on earth Takumi could do all of this in such a short amount of time. All Takumi was asked to do was make a village, but this place is practically a fortress. The villagers were skeptical before, but now that they've seen the village, they are actually grateful that they get to live here. But Mani still doesn't seem so happy. Sophia notices Mani on the hill looking gloomy, so she decides to talk to her and ask if she is here alone. Mani tells her that her husband died in her old village, so Sophia offers her condolences. It would probably be difficult for Mani to attend the fields alone, so Sophia asks her if she would be interested in a different kind of work. Sophia tells Mani that her master is the one who built this village and he has been swamped lately, so she is looking for someone to help take care of his needs. Sophia's phrasing makes it sound a bit inappropriate, so she clarifies that Takumi needs someone to do the cooking and cleaning since Maria is busy with construction too. Sophia invites Mani to meet with Takumi. They gather at Takumi's house a little later to discuss the details. Takumi tells her that as long as Mani is okay with it, he wants to ask her to help care for them. Of course, Takumi says he will pay her a fair wage, but Mani remembers everything that happened at the old village and how she vowed never to trust another noble again. Mani declines Takumi's offer and tells him she doesn't trust him. Things may look good now, but Mani is sure that sooner or later Takumi will cause the villagers to experience great despair, just like the other nobles did. Maria tries to convince Mani that Takumi isn't like that, but if Mani doesn't want to take the job, Takumi doesn't intend to bother her any longer. Then Mani leaves Takumi's room, and as she walks away, Mani thinks that she might have messed up by speaking to Takumi like that. Regardless of whether Takumi is trustworthy or not, he did build this village, so now that she has disrespected him, there's no way he would allow her to stay in his village, so Mani starts leaving. However, as Mani heads out into the forest, she encounters a massive horde of monsters, so Mani starts to regret her choice to leave the village. Back in the village, Maple tells Takumi that she senses a huge horde of monsters approaching the village, and there are many of them. The villagers hear about the monsters and start worrying that they will die here, but Takumi refuses to let that happen. Takumi approaches the knight captain and tells him to raise all the drawbridges so no monsters can enter the city. From what Maple told him, there aren't any flying monsters nearby, so the villagers should be safe inside while Takumi and the others deal with the monsters. Meanwhile, outside, Mani is sprinting back to the city to escape the monster. But to her dismay, Mani sees that they have already raised the drawbridge, so there's no way for her to get to safety now. The villagers inside realize that they haven't seen Mani in a while. Now that they mention it, the knight captain recalls seeing Mani leave the city gates a while ago, so it's possible she might still be outside. And if that's the case, then Mani is in danger. Takumi refuses to let any villagers get hurt, so he vows to bring her back safely and flies over the walls on Titan. 2 wolves have just cornered Mani, and there is no way she can outrun them, so Mani accepts her fate and resigns herself to dying here. But before the wolves could get to her, Takumi swooped in and saved her at the last second. Then Takumi gets her to safety and slashes the 2 wolves in half, so he tells Mani she can relax now. Mani is still worried and tells Takumi that there are many more wolves in the area, but Takumi tells her it shouldn't be a problem since his friends are taking care of it. Sophia and the others soon return to tell Takumi they killed all the monsters in the area, so there's no need to worry. Takumi was serious when he said he wouldn't let anything hurt the villagers living here. Mani now realizes she was wrong about Takumi. Takumi is nothing like the other nobles she has met, so Mani apologizes for her rude behavior and asks if Takumi would still be willing to hire her as his maid. Takumi smiles and says he would love to have her, and everyone else welcomes her to the team. After the night captain returns to Bolton, he informs Godwin of the work Takumi did, and Godwin is greatly pleased, but wonders if that city will really be good enough to serve as a wedge in their conflict with Sidonia. Over in Sidonia, the king receives a report that a fortress with sturdy walls has been erected in the undeveloped land near Barkula. The king is surprised to hear that someone built a fortress there so quickly. King is even more surprised to learn that this is the work of the same Alchemist, who has been causing problems for Sidonia. The king is greatly irritated, but Elizabeth shows up and tells him there is no need to worry because they will soon make Barkula regret going against them. The summoning circle they found has finally gathered enough mana so they can summon the heroes. As the summoning is carried out, an expansive wave of mana washes over the entire land up to the village where Takumi and the others are having lunch. They send some very unpleasant mana to wash over them, so they all feel like something bad just happened. This reminds Takumi that it has been 1 year since he arrived here. Takumi remembers that Norn told him she sent him 1 year into the past from when he and the heroes were summoned, so that must mean the other heroes have arrived. And knowing what he does about Sidonia, this can't be good. So now what will happen next? Subscribe to our channel to find out what will happen next. Friends, before we wrap up, we've recently launched a membership program where you can enjoy perks like early access to videos and exclusive content just for members, and many more to enhance your interactions. If you're interested, consider joining our membership. To enjoy these benefits, check out the link in the description to join. So friends, if you enjoyed our recap video, please like and share it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.